Welcome to Jobshare podcast, the place for sharing everything we know about careers for the next generation. If you are an employer looking to grow your business through new talent, or a young person looking for honest advice on getting and succeeding in a job, then we're here for you. So let's get to it. I'm Charlie Black, and I'm joined here today by my most fabulous co-hosts, Katia Douglas and Natalie Parry. Welcome to a very special edition of Jobshare podcast, especially for Mental Health and Wellbeing Week 2021. Hi guys, how are you doing?
Good.
Yes, all good.
Good. I feel like we should start the Mental Health and Wellbeing podcast by just asking, are you okay? How are you doing today? Because that's how all good wellbeing conversations start, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, checking in. All right, so for the first section of our podcast, as ever, we're going to be focusing on the employer side of things. So how can an employer be supportive of mental health and well-being?
I think having an open door policy, so letting your staff know that you're there for them, that you'll support them, that they can come and speak to you if they've got a problem, and if they don't feel comfortable speaking to you, maybe somebody in the business that's allocated for that. Because I think if people don't know that that is there, they veer away from it. They don't want to do it because it's embarrassing sometimes for some people when they are going through hard things. And I think just knowing that you're working for a company that is understanding of any circumstance and situation can just make a massive difference. So I just think having that open door policy and letting people know that if they have got a problem, they can come and speak to you, and you're going to try and work with them to solve it as best as you can. And if you can't solve it, just support them through it.
I think you're right. I think a lot of people pay lip service to mental health and well-being.
Yeah.
We work with a lot of employers, good ones, bad ones, and different ones. And we know the reality of what's out there. And everyone likes to think that they understand mental health and well-being. That's not always everybody's experience of it. And I suppose the first step is, you're right, Kat, an open door policy. But I think it's a bit more than that. I think it's really pledging to tackle the stigma around mental health, to make it a normal conversation to have, and to just normalize,
that it's okay.
Yeah, it is.
I think that's it, isn't it? It's that it's okay, it's okay not to be okay. I think that's been such a big thing, especially with young people. It's quite a powerful message that obviously, social media has thrown out over the years. And I think it is having that communication, that someone feels that it's a safe environment to discuss those things, that it's okay to discuss it, that if they do discuss it, it's not gonna prevent them from moving a different way, or for promotions or whatever it might be. Because I think sometimes people are a bit frightened to admit that they are struggling, because it might make people look at them differently, which is not the case. So I think employers need to make sure that they have that open policy which says it's okay if things aren't okay. I would rather we have a conversation now. And from an employer perspective as well, it's far better to do that, because the earlier that you do support that person, that usually the better outcome that you have from it.
It's not going to impact on their work and life as well, because that's the reality of it. When people are going through mental health problems, it impacts on everything. And if they've got that support at work, sometimes that can actually be like their safe haven, a place where they feel happy because they've got that outlet, and they've got people who are supporting them, who are letting them be vocal and speak about how they're feeling, and helping them through that. So I think if you can try and capture those issues sort of sooner rather than later, there's less chance of it actually impacting on your business. Not that that's what's important, but things can spiral and get out of control, and also for that person as well. So I think it is important, like you say, just to let them know that you're there for them.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point you said there. I think that my experience of it as well is that a lot of people do often come to work to try and take their mind off of different things that are going on outside of work. So that's kind of been my experience, that actually work has been their safe haven with stuff, and where they've been able to talk and open up about situations. So that's a really good point.
I do want to pick up on something though, Nat, that you said it's not the case that people will think differently about you with mental health issues. And I totally agree that I would love to think that that is the reality of the world and that people don't. But there are people out there that cast judgment. And I think, well, I suppose the only advice I can give to those people is learn a bit more about mental health.
I think that's it. Educate yourself.
I think we're lucky. The environment that we work in is extremely supportive, isn't it? And it's a very happy place to be. But some places are not like that. And it's really unfortunate. But those are probably the businesses that don't do as well, because the staff's mental health is impacting on their work, and they're not supporting people. They're not putting in 100%, because what are they actually getting back from their employer? So,
work's moved on, hasn't it? You know, work is not a place anymore where you come, you do your 9 to 5, you get paid, you leave. There are very few jobs out there where that is what happens every day. So as employers and managers and leaders, we have to be way more responsible. We have to give back. You know, people expect that. And if you want good people working for you, productive people, your job is kind of to make them happy.
Let's stay.
Let's stay. Retention's really important.
Really important.
Well-being is a massive factor in why people leave jobs.
Definitely.
I would be really interested to hear from people, because there's that old adage, people don't leave jobs, they leave bad managers. I bet more people leave jobs because it's impacting on their well-being. And that's not necessarily a bad manager. That can be the environment, that can be other team members, that can be just the company ethos generally. And I think, you know, if retention is a problem, then well-being is a really good place to start. And
I think especially over the last year, I think mental health and well-being has become even more, you know, in the forefront really of people's minds, because the whole country has been working, you know, from home and remotely. And, you know, we've had obviously everything that the pandemic brings of being people on their own, not seeing their friends, not seeing their families.
Furloughed, worried about their jobs.
Losing their jobs even, you know. So I think this year has been really, really tough on a lot of people's mental health and well-being. And so I think it puts things back into perspective for a lot of people. And I think when people are looking at jobs now, that's something that they're looking at. They're looking at things that are a good work-life balance, that they're looking at people that are more flexible with kind of the way that they do things, because it is so important to people now.
What do you guys do to make sure that you're looking after your team's mental health and well-being in kind of really practical ways that other people could use?
I think communication's a massive thing.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, always talking to them all of the time, and me being open as well, because I think me being open makes them more open as well.
I totally agree with you. I know it must be really boring for people to see and hearing. I totally agree with you. But vulnerability is such a humanizing characteristic. And there is this kind of old school mentality about you have to be a strong leader, you have to put on this big front. And that is not the case in my experience. And tell me if I'm wrong, but being a vulnerable human person at work, even in a leadership role or a management role, people respect you more for that. People feel that you're more approachable, and they're way more open to having conversations with you about how they're doing generally, and you get a much better feel for them.
I just think you seem more genuine.
You
know, nobody, I mean, maybe not nobody, but I mean, well, I went, no, I'm going to go as far as nobody. I don't believe that nobody is perfect every single day. Not every single person is happy every single day. And especially, like I say, over the last year, I think some of the most important conversations that, you know, I've had around mental health and wellbeing with the staff have just being real about how you feel about things and how things are affecting you, and not having to always be like, oh, okay, I'm fine. I mean, it's, you know, you don't breaking down all the time. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's that I know how hard it is. I'm really struggling with this, and it can make people really open up. But I think it's for me personally, with the people that I work with, is some are more comfortable to talk about it in a group. Some are more comfortable on a one-to-one basis. Some are really uncomfortable one or the other as well. So I think it's having those options.
I think that's important. I think knowing your people, because there's been times when I've been in like meetings with staff and I've sort of picked up that somebody's not really themselves, so I'll sort of hold them back after the call. But that's just
Yeah.
because I know them, and I think that that's really important, is actually getting to know the people that you work with, and seeing what their mannerisms are like in certain situations, to see actually they're not very comfortable right now, I need to go and have a chat with them, or they don't look very happy. And I think that as well sort of makes people more open to speak to you, because you've noticed that there's something not right with them, which again shows that you care.
Definitely. Well, they say that, don't they? You know, when you say like, oh, sorry, they almost like apologize for you noticing sometimes, don't they? I'm so sorry that you've noticed that was like that. And it's like, well, no, that's a good thing. But no, you know, you can come to me if you feel uncomfortable or there's something that you know doesn't feel right.
But going back to what you said, Charlotte, about how sort of like for me personally with my team and how I make sure that they're all right, is not, if somebody has got a problem, talk about it, but next time you meet, just make sure that that is still okay. So follow up on it. Don't just forget about it. I think it is really important just to make sure it hasn't got worse, or that actually it has got better and everything's okay.
Yes, a lot. I suppose that's not just for mental health issues either. You know, generally speaking, if you've had a conversation with somebody that was kind of meaningful and you could tell that was, I don't know, that they were vulnerable or they bared their soul to you or whatever, that you follow up on that regularly, that one conversation, they might leave that room feeling brilliant, but the likelihood is, you know, when they come out of that environment, intrusive thoughts will set in or anxiety sets in, and they slowly come back down again. And so you do need to keep checking in regularly. I think that's important. And I think, you know, asking that question, are you okay, more than once, even if it's in the same, you know, if it's in like the same half an hour, you ask once, are you okay? Are you sure you're okay? And sometimes it takes that second okay for someone to say, actually, do you know what? I'm just really shit today. I'm really glad you asked, because now I'm going to tell you all about it.
Do you know, rule of thumb says 3 times. You should ask somebody
is it
at least
3?
3 times. Yeah. The first time they'll say there's nothing wrong. The second time they'll probably just say it's something little, and it's the third time they'll tell you what the actual problem is. So 3 times.
I love that. That's a great takeaway. 3 times. Obviously not in quick succession, because that doesn't
Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay?
Okay.
They're not going to open up.
Yeah, no, be genuine about it.
Yeah.
I suppose I want to pick up on that, knowing your people a bit more. And if you are not the sort, don't force yourself to be something you're not. If you're not the sort of manager that, you know, forms these close bonds with the people that they work with, then being aware of that is cool. You know, be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And think, okay, maybe I need to create some kind of buddy system, or maybe I need to just create spaces like coffees and catch-ups where people can get together and have that conversation if you don't feel like you can facilitate that, because not everybody likes getting involved in those conversations. You know, there are people out there that will actively avoid any conversation that has anything to do with emotion. And if you're one of those people, that's cool, you do you, but recognize that other people need that, and find someone else to, you know, fill those boots for you, because people need it.
I do agree with that, but I also think that those people who don't feel comfortable obviously having those conversations should know where they can refer people to for further help. Because I think just saying, oh, I'm not comfortable with it, and that's just who I am, is fine, but not if you don't then still support that person by saying these are the places that you need to go, or these people might be able to help you or support you with that particular issue. So I think it is okay not to be comfortable with that and not have those conversations, but it's not okay not to know where you would then get the support. Because we're not supposed to know all the answers.
Like, no, and we're not counselors, we're not psychologists, exactly. We're not, you know, we're just human beings being human and wanting to connect with people. And if you're not cool with that, then find out where to go.
And sometimes it can be quite dangerous giving advice that you're not qualified to give.
Yeah, I would definitely advocate for that.
So I think it's about being supportive, but also knowing where the right people that can support that person are and how to access that.
And don't give advice where it's not wanted.
No.
Ever.
No.
Top tip. I suppose above all else, I suppose the way I like to think about it is be the manager that you would have liked yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the key to human connection in that kind of leadership role is to be the person that you wish that you had.
Yeah.
And be someone to look up to and be available. I would like to just pick up on, we've talked in very general terms, I would like to pick up on young people specifically.
Yeah.
Been to a couple of 5% Club meetings. For everyone who doesn't know what 5% Club is, it's a network of employers who are committed to at least 5% of their workforce being apprentices. So it's a really cool thing to get involved with. Great network, lots of support. But they regularly meet and they have a discussion. And I remember one that I went to, and they said, and it was not just one voice in the room, it was several voices in the room. They said the biggest thing that we struggle with apprentices and working with young people is the amount of mental health issues and the pastoral care and support that they need. And it wasn't that they didn't want to help, it was just, I didn't realize that this was going to be part of the job of working with young people and didn't really know what to do about it. So how do you think employers can go that extra mile, really support young people who are working for them with their mental health and wellbeing?
I think having known what organizations are out there, because there's a lot of charities that can support young people. Obviously funding's limited for adults, but with young people there are charities that can offer counselling and support, depending on obviously what the issue is. So I think sort of knowing where you can signpost them to and supporting them through that process, not making them go and do it on their own. I mean, I've been in a situation myself with a staff member who was going through some problems, and I'd done a lot of research and try to find counsellors. Unfortunately for this individual, there wasn't funding available, but I did find out that there actually were a lot of charities for various different things to support young people. So there are things out there, and I think it's important that employers know what's there. And if they don't know, go to a training provider or a college, because they'll have those links, because obviously they're responsible for looking after the young people that are working with them. So I think knowing where to send them if you can't help them, and supporting them through that as well, because some of them might not have support at home, and that could be the reason why they're struggling with the mental health issues that they're going through.
Yeah, I agree. I think what you said there is important that you researched and found the information. I think that's important that they do that, and that they actually try and help the person rather than seeing it as a problem as such. I think that's not necessarily the right way to look at it, as just being a problem. And I think what they need to do is understand that generation. They've grown up in a very different world to even that we have. We're not that old, and
we're
our
not
generation,
that far removed, I promise.
But they've grown up on social media. They've had every element of their lives watched and commented on, and they live their world on likes. And it's different. It can be really difficult, and everybody's come across a keyboard warrior. I'm sure we will, but and you do get that does happen, and that's what they've grown up with, and that could be really difficult if not, if they don't have the support to understand that.
But so much of it goes undiagnosed. So I have a statistic, because we know that I like those. So there is an average of a 10-year delay between young people displaying their first symptoms and getting help.
Wow.
So they spend an awful long time kind of suffering without any support, and obviously in that 10-year period things can get a whole lot worse than they started out. So I think it's important that employers take on that responsibility. Yes, they have family, yes, they have friends, but you see a different side of them that they don't see. And as an employer, recognizing signs, if somebody is withdrawn, if they're not socializing, if they have a sudden change of personality, they're clearly not eating or sleeping properly, then those are like little alarm bells that should trigger that "are you okay" conversation. And that's something I think people really should think about doing.
I think even if they're turning up late to work and things like that, things where you'd be wanting to dismiss them, don't think straight away that they're not committed. It could be that there's actually something else going on, and that's why they're turning up late, or they've come in a bit scruffy or whatever. So maybe delve a little bit more, because I think that a lot of the time young people lose jobs because they've actually got mental health issues, and they've displayed signs of, like I say, they're not turning up on time, they're not putting 100% into their work, it's a bit sloppy, but it could be because they've actually gone through a lot at home outside of work. So those could also be signs that things are not so good.
And it might seem like that's a whole, oh well, I can't bother, to just won't recruit any young people. But you're going to soon end, in a few years' time, there's going to be nobody for you to recruit if that's your attitude. So you do need to think about servicing this generation of people that are now coming into the workforce, and making sure that you're creating environments where they can thrive and really become the best. And by doing that and being supportive, you get a lot more out of them. You know, there's a lot of loyalty and favor to be brought from investing in people, not just
you get like an 800% return. I have a statistic.
Oh, I love it. Please tell me more.
For every £1 you invest in the mental well-being of your employees, you get £9 back. And it doesn't have to be a physical pound. That pound could be a pound of your time. But you're getting like 800% return on that. So
reduce sick days. You know, the amount of sick days that are attributed to mental health problems or well-being problem issues, and they're not necessarily huge, but you know, that impacts on a business. That productivity is massively affected if people are off sick. So it's just creating an environment, having people that they can go to, I think, is a good thing to do. You know, having somebody in the business. Mental health first aiders are a great thing to do. Somebody that is trained to deal with causes for concern and knows the right thing, you know, the right actions to take and the right things to say and the right things to do is totally worthwhile having. Having a mentor. I know we've talked about this before, but having a mentor is just gold in terms of developing young people and allowing them somebody that they really feel that they can open up to. Incredibly rewarding long term. In this section, we're going to be discussing mental health and well-being from the perspective of young people and practical things they can do to look after their own mental health and well-being. So let's just start with some things that we do to look after our own mental health.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that I do personally to protect it. I think managing your time on social media is important, because I think that can be a pretty horrible place at times. So I think, especially if big things have happened, I think that can be quite negative. So I think avoid sort of limiting your social media time. It is a good one. Personally, for myself, I use an app called Breathe, which is really good. It does things like meditation. It helps with, I really struggle with sleep. And it really helps me to sleep. It does sort of like meditation things for that. Some people are not really into that, but if you are, and it's worth a try, because I wasn't, and I find it really useful.
I bought an app. I wasn't going to do it because I'm cheap, so I wanted a free thing that I could use. But I did end up investing in Calm, which I think is quite a similar thing.
Very similar.
So you have all your sleep sounds and you can customize them, and you can even get people to read you bedtime stories, which I totally love the fact that Idris Elba can read me a bedtime story. Like, I'm about that.
All about
Nick's
that,
not so keen, right? But it's okay.
He's like, who's that?
Yeah.
Let's just Idris.
I think you're right. Sleep is so vital to mental health.
Yeah, sleep definitely, because I think when you're young, you want to go out, you want to have fun, and that's part of growing up, but it's just making sure that you keep that balance, because it can have an effect on your mental health. Definitely. I know for me, I need my sleep. I'm very grumpy without it. So for me, sleep's very, very important. I need to sleep. And me, I like to just take some time out on my own. I think sometimes I can be around a lot of people all of the time, and it's very busy and don't often have a lot of time to really think. So I think sometimes just taking a little bit of time out just to sit and reflect and look at what's went well and focus on the positive things, just to sort of rebalance yourself. Because I think sometimes we can focus so much on the negatives that when you actually sit down and look at the good things that have happened, things aren't that bad. And it does actually make you feel a bit better. So for me, just taking a bit of time out.
Definitely, that's a really good point.
Yeah, that's the thing about negative thought processes, isn't it? And intrusive thoughts is that you fixate on something negative and it goes round and round and round in your head. And that's the thing that happens to me at night. I suffer. I don't sleep well because I'll get something in my head, and then it could have happened literally 20 years ago and it's still banging around in my head. And you do have to work out ways to push out those thoughts. And if you can, I think that's a cool tip, Kat, is to
just put them in the boxes.
But
absolutely, just put them in the boxes and realize that those things are not important, and just focus on the things that are important, the things you can actually do something about, because sometimes you can't change certain things. And it's just about accepting those and just looking at the good things in your life, and surrounding yourself by good people.
And just taking like 5 minutes to go, right, no, I recognize that this thought process is happening. I'm going to stop and I'm going to list 5 things that I like about myself, or 5 things that I do well, or 5 things that I am happy about, and keep replaying those. I like that one. Thanks, Kat. That's cool. I'm going to use that one tonight when I can't sleep.
It works. Awesome. Trust me.
On the kind of the sleep theme, I'm going to sound like a right nana, but I like a nap. It doesn't have to be.
I can't nap.
It's not like a full-on unconscious nap. It's like a conscious nap. So it actually happened today. I'm so overwhelmed. I've got so much on at the moment. Like the work just keeps coming, and trying to find the time to do that. So there's 2 things that I do. One of them I did today. I've done both of them today, actually, is to go, right, I'm stopping. I need to take a minute. And I went on the sofa and I literally just closed my eyes for 20 minutes, set a timer for 20 minutes and just laid there and was like, I am not moving. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just going to stop and concentrate on not, just breathing or just being quiet. So that taking that time out, just that little break, I think is cool. And the other thing I do is organize. And it's really simple. But when I get the things that make me anxious are not having enough time to do everything that I need to do. So to sit down takes 5 minutes, write a list of everything that I've got to do, prioritize it, and book stuff into my diary to say, right, I've booked time to do that, and I've booked time to do that, and I can stop panicking about when I'm going to do that because I've booked time to do it.
Because you can see it there. It's all going to get done. It's visual, isn't it? And for some people that works really well.
I think time management, people associate time management with not performing well at work or not doing your job properly, but I don't think it's that. I think time management can really support mental health and wellbeing at work. Having good time management will help you to deal with stress and anxiety and feelings of being overwhelmed. So that was my recommendation.
I have one more here,
Go on.
because it's something that I've started doing recently when I had a coaching session, because I was going through a bit of a crappy time, feeling a bit anxious, a bit of imposter syndrome really, which we'll all get.
It's a real thing. I don't care what people say. Imposter syndrome is a real thing.
Even scientists and doctors
come at me if you don't think it is. I would love to have that conversation.
But I was having a really bad week with that, and from the coaching session, one of the things that my coach said was to get a diary and just to write every day the good things that happened that day, no matter how small, just all of the good things that happened in that day. And I can honestly say it makes us look at the days that I've had completely differently, because I'm focusing on the good things and not the bad things, and I'm actually doing things better, because it's like I want to write something else good in. So
that's
basically a
that's
positivity
reward
diary
system. No, I like that. And I think you can buy them. You can use any old notepad or on a computer or your phone even.
You can put it anywhere you want.
I bet there's an app for that.
Oh,
but you can definitely buy books. I think writing is quite therapeutic.
Yeah, because I think when you write it goes in as well. You'd like it just makes it more like that did happen. You're not just saying
I commit to this thought. Yeah. Other things that we do to support our mental health.
I think for me, it's taking myself away from the situation. So like you do when you nap, I can't do that. I don't know. I can't do that. But for me, I have to like actually walk away from the situation. So
you're a walker. You go out.
Like I'll go out, like go outside on my own with my music on or a podcast on, and like just spend half an hour.
Everybody, download our podcast and listen to it while you walk. You will get $1 million after you finish. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I was just doing a shameless little plug there.
I think that is it for me. Just being like on my own and away and in quiet. Just music on. Like I could literally walk around the industrial estate by my house and it's not pretty, but it is just that being out. But I think for me, I enjoy going for a walk. We're lucky with where we live in Newcastle. I live very close to the quayside, so have some lovely walks that I can go on. But that for me, then when I come back in, I feel like I refresh and I can go again. I can't. Whereas if I didn't do that, after a bad day at work or at home or whatever the situation is, if I didn't take myself away, I sit and think about it all night and it ruins my whole night, and then I don't sleep because I think about it. So I think for me, taking yourself out of the situation is a good thing.
And walking is good. Walking is exercise, and we all know exercise is good for us, not just physically but mentally as well. It releases endorphins. We feel super proud of ourselves because we ran for 10 minutes on a treadmill. I feel amazing. I feel like I've done an amazing job. But you do, doing some exercise does make you feel good, and it can be a lot of effort to do it, but very rarely do people come out of exercise going, oh my god, I feel worse than when I started. Usually people feel like an absolute hero when they're finished exercising. So that's another thing to do. And I'm terrible for getting started, so I tend to I don't recommend this if you're going into an office, but if you're working from home or you're not working at all yet, but when you get up in the morning, put your workout clothes on, because you've kind of mentally committed to doing exercise that day and you find the time to do it. If I get up and I don't put workout clothes on, that is not happening. That will not happen. I will not get changed again just to work out. So I found that that's kind of the trick for me, and that might work for somebody else. Wear your workout clothes. Do it.
Get your leggings on.
And eating well.
I was going to say diet's a massive thing.
It's so easy to comfort eat chocolate, which feels good in that immediate moment. But again, food impacts your mood so much. I was speaking to somebody recently I am not preaching veganism here. I'm just saying it. But she'd recently become vegan, and she was saying she feels amazing. She feels mentally much brighter. She feels happier. And some people will argue that that's placebo. Some people will say, because plant-based diet is like wins. But whatever it is, it works for her. And I think food can have a massive impact on how you feel.
Oh, absolutely. And I think if you've had a really poor diet, going vegan is definitely going to make you feel 100% better. Do you know what I mean? If you've been living on McDonald's and pasties, and then you do change to something like that, like
a bit of Greg's.
I had to get the Greg's in there.
Please send us pasties.
We will happy to be sponsored by Greg's.
I'll be sponsored by anybody at this point, but no.
I think with young people, we're talking specifically about young people, but I think with them, it is so much easier to do that, to, you know, go to the likes of McDonald's and grab a burger because it's there. And I think they have this conscious that it's cheaper to sometimes eat like that. And it's not always the case. I think even just, I mean, some people find cooking really therapeutic. I think, you know, during the pandemic, I did loads of cooking because it felt really like just nice to have all of these nice food and find all these new recipes and do all that sort of stuff. So I think cooking healthy food doesn't have to be expensive. You know, if you cook it, you generally have to cook in batches for it to not be, to be completely honest and out there with it. But that's fine. You can do that, freeze it, and just you have that ready for you when you come in. Because I think that's another thing, isn't it? That young people sort of live in a generation of everything's instant.
Yeah.
So I think having that where you've got batch cooked food that you can come home to from work and not have to think, oh, what am I gonna have for dinner, and just, you know, end up shoving something in frozen because it's easier. It is spending that little bit of time because it will make you feel better.
And if you're having a crappy day, do something you're good at. Yeah. Like, no matter how small it is, I always think, you know, when things get on top of you and you do start to think, oh, I'm just, you know, I'm not had a good day. Everything's gone wrong. I've messed this up. I'm really focusing about work here. You know, when you've had a crappy day at work, do something after work that you're good at and that makes you feel good and that you can be proud of, even if it's small. You know, draw a picture, or I don't know, bake something.
It's the little wins, isn't it, though? It's those little pick-me-ups that, like, more and more of those, you'll start to see your mood changing more and more. You've got to do positive things to start to feel more positive. So I definitely agree with you there.
Or better still, go and see somebody. People, even if you're really introverted, being around some people can lift your mood quite significantly. Being around people that you feel safe and secure with and you feel loved, it lifts your mood. And just talking to people. If you can't go and see someone, because, you know, we're still coming out of that pandemic. We haven't got long.
We're nearly there.
We're on the home stretch.
Yes. Fingers crossed.
I'm coming to Newcastle next month. I'm telling you, it's happening. But seeing people, like, this is going to sound really cheesy, but I can't wait to see you guys in person.
Yeah, no, same goes. I'm like,
like, I'm so excited.
Nearly been a year.
I was going to say, even if the rules change, we're smuggling you in.
Don't say that. She won't.
We don't condone breaking COVID rules.
No, cut that out.
Disclaimer.
But, you know, it's just being around people that lift you up and make you feel awesome. Surround yourself with those people. And you know what? If you know people who don't make you feel awesome, you need to cut them out.
Yeah, I think that's not even just when you're not having a good day. Just be around good people. Stop having negative people in your life that don't bring any positive to your life. It's think about you.
Yes.
You know, it can be difficult with young people. You go out, especially, you know, you come out of school, you then go to sixth forms or colleges, people start work, do apprenticeships. People tend to go in different directions and you end up with lots of different friendship groups, don't you? And I think it can be difficult for young people to kind of break away for certain friendship groups that are just not making them happy. And that's okay. It's okay to do what makes you happy. So I think that would probably be my advice to my younger self would be, it's okay to break away and just be around people that make you feel good or make you happy. You don't owe anyone anything.
No, you don't.
Only yourself. Only yourself. Yeah.
There's only one of you. Look after you.
Exactly.
You're the only person that you can really take responsibility for.
Yeah.
You can't control other people's actions.
No.
But you can control your own. I think the other thing that we do have to point out here is we are talking about everyday anxieties, you know, because anxiety is a real thing. It happens to all of us. That's why I don't sleep. Like, hands up, I get really anxious before I go to sleep. And that's just a normal part of my life but I can cope with that. But there is a point for people where it is impacting them too much and it is becoming unmanageable. And we see it with the young people we work with a lot. Like, you know, we have seen, we've been doing this for years, working with young people, and we have every year we see another increase on the number of mental health concerns. And some of that is because it's much more widely reported than it ever has been before, which is great. It means we're normalizing that conversation.
Yeah.
But other part of it is just because it's part of life, and people are more anxious, and people are more stressed, and depression is a huge problem. So if you are experiencing that, if it is too much, and you know, you need to know when it's too much for you, then there is so much help out there. There are so many charities, there are so many places,
even forums online. If you don't want to speak to somebody, there's so many forums online with so many conversations that you'll find something where someone is going through a similar thing as what you are, and people giving that person advice. I had it myself when I found out somebody passed away, unfortunately, and I didn't know how to deal with it. And I went onto a forum, and it made us feel so much better, because the questions I was asking myself, I felt really stupid about, but then these people were asking those same questions. So it sort of validated that actually, no, you're not being ridiculous. It's okay for you to feel the way that you're feeling. So I think even if you don't feel comfortable speaking to somebody, you don't want to go and see a counsellor, or even somebody that you know, that there are other alternatives where you don't physically have to talk to anybody, but you can still get the help and support you need.
I think what we will do, actually, guys, we'll pop some links in for people on our, when we release this podcast next week. We will make some noise about some different places that people can go to get help, because that's really important. And one more thing that I wanted to mention was other people's mental health can affect your mental health. And what I mean by that is, we are normalizing the conversation about talking about your own personal mental health, but it's really difficult when you are close to somebody who is experiencing mental health issues. And
especially if you're going through your own stuff, I think that's when you shouldn't really be trying to help that person.
Yeah, there is that. But I'm speaking from experience here. When you're close to somebody who is depressed, or is, having, who is really not going for a very good time, the toll it can take on your mental health over time is real. And you will, I know for me, I felt, not only were they making me depressed, the guilt I felt on top of that for kind of resenting them for making me feel bad, making me feel ill.
I think that's even harder as well, isn't it? Because it's like, you're not depressed because there's anything going on with you. You're feeling down because of what they're going through. And really the only way you can feel better is if they feel better.
Yeah.
But you've obviously still got to look after yourself. So it's a tricky one, that, isn't it?
Yeah. So I would say, if you are supporting somebody going through mental health issues, and you also need to seek out some support, if you speak to professional counsellors have counsellors themselves, because they take on so much, they need to offload that. And that's a chain. And it's exactly the same in everyday life. If you are the support person for somebody, then you need to make sure that you're also accessing some support, because that really does take its toll. And it's like that old, that thing where, when you go on an airplane and they do the whole, health and safety announcement, and they say, when you, if the oxygen mask drop down, put your own on before you help anybody else. And it is like that. It is make sure that you're in a position to help people before you do.
I think it is. I completely agree. I think it's normalizing the fact that it's okay to say you can't take any more on.
Yeah.
And you have to, step away to protect your own mental health as well, and to get the support that you need. Because I think it's really difficult, and it's painful to be in those situations, and to see, and especially if it's somebody that you are close with or that you really care about, it's really hard to see people not doing well,
in pain, because it's real pain.
Yeah.
But then equally, there are sometimes people that are in people's lives who have mental health issues, who do weigh on you quite heavily, but really their problems are not your problems, and they're just not very nice people. So I think it goes back to the whole toxic thing as well, is sometimes
Yeah.
people do have major issues and those problems are not your problems to solve. So I think sometimes weigh up, where should you be getting involved and what actually should you be stepping away from, because some things are not there for you to fix.
It's the same thing we said earlier. You're not qualified to fix that person, if that's how, you want to put it. That isn't your job. You can be there as, support and point them in the right direction and, point them to support they need. You are not trained to coach that person to feel better. That's why we have professionals. And I think it's amazing how much it probably, and it has been so recent. You're probably talking in the last, I don't know, there's not been even 10 years, I don't think, where people have started to talk about their mental health and started to openly have the conversations with people, which is great because it's saving lives.
Yeah. And,
it's
and
that simple.
And for all we bash social media for it, yes, it does have a negative impact on people's mental health. I am sick of scrolling through my feeds, looking at people who are a million times better than me, or at least that's the things that go around in your head when you're scrolling, right? But it also connects you to people. There's always somebody that you can reach out to, that you are not alone. There are, like we said, there are charities and there are websites and there are all manner of things out there. So if you are experiencing mental health issues, or somebody close to you is experiencing mental health problems and you don't know how best to support them, then reach out, because there is absolutely somebody out there that will help you. Promise. You are never alone.
Never ever.
Mm-mm. If you or someone you know needs support with mental health, please visit nhs.uk/mental-health, where you can access urgent and non-urgent help. If you need to speak to someone immediately, you can call the Samaritans 24 hours a day, 365 days a year for free on 116 123. You can also access advice and support from the mental health charity Mind at mind.org.uk and clicking the Get Help Now button. Young Minds offers support to young people in crisis. If you are a young person in need of urgent support, text YM to 85258. All texts are answered by trained volunteers and texts are free from all major mobile networks.